If there's one thing I've learned after a decade of managing my money, it's this. Financial freedom isn't just about how much you earn, it's about how intentionally you manage what you have. When I made $40,000 on my first job out of university, I still paid off my student loans, traveled for months at a time, saved up for a home, and eventually built enough of a cushion to quit my 9 to 5 and start my business. Today, even earning over 6 figures, those same habits keep me grounded. In this video, I'm sharing how I budget in a way that's realistic, sustainable, and flexible so that you can hit your goals without sacrificing the life that you want now. And in today's economy with inflation, recession risks, and global uncertainty, being intentional with your money is more important than ever. In fact, 47% of Canadians won't be able to cover a $1,000 emergency expense without taking out a loan. So let's not be part of that statistics. Whether you're starting fresh or resetting your finances, now is the time to build a system that works for you. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you exactly how I allocate my income, expenses, and savings on a monthly basis using my very own template. Before we dive in, since we're on the topic of budgeting and saving money, I want to quickly share how you can get a free pair of glasses. Kits is an authentically Canadian brand based right here in Vancouver, where I'm from, and they're offering Canadians their first pair of prescription glasses for free. Now is the time to give back to Canadians, and with code Gabrielle, you could get your first pair of standard prescription glasses for free. You'll just need to cover $9.95 for shipping. I personally visited their beautiful storefront across from Kitsilano Beach to try on some glasses and ended up getting a pair with a blue light filter, which I use all the time whenever I'm working in front of the computer. My eyes get strained and dry really easily, and the blue light filter really helps. If you've been meaning to get a new pair of glasses, there are hundreds of amazing pairs to choose from on Kit's online store. Kit's glasses are handcrafted in Vancouver, BC, and they ship your glasses the same day you order. Use the code Gabrielle to claim your first pair of prescription glasses for free. Now let's jump right into the tutorial. Before we jump into the budgeting template, if you want access to this specific 2025 budget and net worth tracker, make sure to check out the description box down below. And I get a lot of requests to edit this. All you have to do is go into File, and then you could make a copy, or you could even download an Excel version for you to edit. So just wanted to get that out of the way. So let's jump right into the template itself. Now, there is a 2024 budget and net worth tracker. However, I did incorporate a lot of changes this year based on your feedbacks from 2024, as well as what I thought was easier to use and navigate. So I did implement a little bit more automations to make things a little bit easier. Now, some things are going to be the same. So the 2025 annual budget and net worth overview, this is just a snapshot of the whole year. And once you fill in the different tabs, you will start to notice graphs being populated here, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, but just want to give you the annual overview. Now, if you want a little bit more of a detailed breakdown, this is a monthly overview, which shows you all the different types of expenses, the difference between the actual and the budget, your monthly savings amount, as well as a percentage. And you could also input additional details like your bank account amounts and also your investment accounts, which is automated. So everything in white, you need to manually update. Everything in gray is being pre-populated, or it's pulling the information from a different tab. So the investment accounts are being pulled from the investments tab, which we'll go over. And then the last part here is real estate. And for real estate, as you can see, it's in white. So you would need to update what the fair market value is. I like to go off of the property tax assessments, and the mortgage is the amount that you need to pay. And as you pay it off every single month, you'll notice that your mortgage amount decreases over time, and equity in your real estate would also increase over time. And if you add up these three main areas, which is the cash in your bank account, your investment portfolio, and your real estate, then you will come up with your net worth. So I'll show you in real time how this will work, but I just wanted to give you an overview. Another tab here is the debt summary. One way to get organized is to make sure all the information is in one place. So if you have a car loan, if you have student loans, if you have credit card debt, whatever it may be, just having it all in one place, it gives you a snapshot of what you have left to pay off. And you could also create a master plan in terms of the order of priority and how much to pay it off on a monthly basis. Now, I won't be going into too much detail on this particular tab. I have a whole video dedicated to it, which I will link above. So make sure to check it out on how to utilize with this particular tab. Now moving on to investments, this is where you keep track of all your different investments such as your TFSA, your RRSP, FHSA, as well as your non-registered accounts. You will see there's three main sections. The first is the initial investment, so how much you put in. The second is the market value, so how much the value of your investments are fluctuating. And here at the end, you will see if you're making a profit or if you're making a loss. Another tab here is the income tab. There are similarly three sections. The first is your income goals, so whatever it may be, your salary, your side hustle, your investment income, you could write down what your income goals are for the year. And then the actual earnings, so it's in gray, which means that it's automated and is being pulled from different tabs. And then there is a comparison of whether you were able to meet your income goals or if you haven't been able to meet your income goals. The next tab is the master budget. This is a tab that we'll be spending some time on in terms of money coming in, money going out, and how we are going to allocate different savings goals. And then the rest of the tabs are dedicated to each month. So you'll see that this one is related to January, February. So you will complete each tab as that month is over, and once the data comes in from your bank account or your credit card statements, and you actually sit down and you update it. Now that I've given you an overview of the template, let's go over a live example on how to actually utilize it. Now, jumping into a live example, let's first start off with the master budget. And I find that this is going to be the most important tab to take some time to fill out and be really intentional about where you plan to allocate your funds. So the very first section here is income. And this is a change compared to last year's template where we just focus on expenses. I wanted to be able to track real-time income as well, and also provide a breakdown of the different sources of income you might have. So here I already went ahead and filled out some of the information just to save some time, but you can see here that there is a section for salary, there's a section for freelance work, investments, as well as other income. And I put in some estimates of how much of that income might be. Salary is going to be more fixed because that's more consistent. However, freelance work and investments might fluctuate, but I am putting in more of a conservative amount to work with. So total income is going to be $6,500. So this is the money coming in. Now, the next step is to allocate how we are going to be spending this $6,500. The first allocation that we want to focus on is on future me. I want to be able to prioritize how much money to put aside for future me. And so here I came up with a couple of categories, which is emergency fund, retirement fund, and travel fund. And right now, this information is being pulled from the annual overview over here. So this is a section that you could fill out just to get a snapshot of your big picture money goals. So you could spend some time here thinking about what you want to save up for. Here I put in three different types of money goals. The first being the emergency fund, the second being the retirement fund, and the third being a travel fund. And so the different types of accounts I want to put them in are TFSA, RRSP, and another TFSA. The total I put down is $10,000 for an emergency fund. And let's say that you've saved up $7,000 already, and you want to save up the remaining $3,000 in the course of a year. That means that the monthly amount here, as you can see, that's been calculated is $250. Now for the retirement fund, let's say that your goal is to save up $200,000. Obviously, this is not enough to live off of once you are retired, but if we have a long time horizon, like 20 years, then as you save up over the years, your principal will be compounded, and this $200,000 will be a much bigger amount after 20 years when it is time to retire. And I actually have a video that goes into how much you need to save now in order to have $1 million, $2 million once you retire. And I will link that video up above for you to check out as well. But let's say in our case, we've done that calculation and $200,000 is enough to compound over a long period of time to get to our retirement fund of $1 million in 20 years time. And let's say that we put aside $32,000 already. It means we need to still be able to save up $168,000. And let's say we want to do that over the course of 20 years. So on an annual basis, you need to save up $8,400, which makes it $700 per month. Now, the last money goal here is a travel fund. Of course, we still want to be able to enjoy our life and have fun, but we also want to be responsible and put that money aside so that we could fully enjoy our vacation. And let's say that you are budgeting $5,000 and that you've saved $2,000 already, and you want to be able to save the remainder of $3,000 in half a year. So in 6 months time. That means with the time left over, you still need to be able to save $500 per month. And so your total savings goal here is $1,450. And the master budget automatically pulls that information information from the annual overview. But if you want to make changes, you can totally just go ahead and you can direct edits to this. Otherwise, it'll just stick with what is pulling from the annual overview. Now that we've prioritized future me, the next biggest bucket is housing. So your mortgage payments are going to be fixed, and a lot of these amounts are going to be fixed, like your strata fees, your home insurance, your property taxes, hydro, etc. So I went ahead and put in some assumptions of what those costs might look like. The next biggest section is transportation, and let's say that you are financing a car. So the different areas of expenses are your financing costs, your insurance, your gas, maintenance and repairs, parking, and maybe some minor expenses for public transportation or Ubers and taxis for that one-off occasion. The next big expense is your household costs. So groceries might be a big one, and you might have some household supplies like toilet paper, cleaning supplies. You might also have household items like cups and containers that have more of a lasting value than just toilet paper that you use up. And then you might also have some subscriptions like Netflix, Amazon Prime, etc. There's also a section for personal care. So some of the more common expenses can be personal hygiene, like your body wash, your shampoo, etc. There's skincare, hair care, gym passes, fitness classes, supplements, medical visits. You could customize this to whatever you like. I'm just putting in some as examples, but this is fully customizable. Another section that I put in here is for luxuries. So something that is not essential, but something that might just be for fun, like shopping for clothes and shoes. There might be entertainment if you go out to the movies or you go watch a play. There might be travel expenses when you actually go on a trip. There's restaurants when you're eating out. There's delivery such as Uber Eats, and there's coffee shops. So I've come out with these 7 main buckets, but you'll notice that there are 10 sections in total, and this is because I wanted to be able to give you more flexibility to allocate expenses that make sense to you. And this is one of the main feedback that I received in terms of being able to customize these budgets a little bit more. So what I've done is I've increased the number of buckets. So there's up to 10 buckets here. And also there's a lot more details you could put in. It was 5 before, and now there's 10. And so there's a lot more customization that you can do over here. Now, the very last section I put in is for transfers. And this is something I'll have to show you in real time for it to make more sense, but it encompasses all the transfers you might do between a checking and savings account or a checking and credit card. That's just an in and out that might net to 0, but you just want to include it for completeness. And I'll show you how this works. Once we've done the master budget and we made a plan on how we are going to be allocating our income, the next step is to complete a month's worth of transactions and compare what the actual expenses were to our budget, and then also take some time to reflect and see how we did for the month. So how you would complete this on a monthly basis is, let's say that the month of January is over and that it is currently February 10th. That means all the transactions for the month of January has already been posted to your bank statements and your credit card statements. And so you would log into your online bank account, and there should be an option where you could download the transactions. You should be able to choose a period, let's say from January 1st to January 31st, and export that detail into a CSV or Excel format. And when you download those transactions, all you have to do is copy and paste them onto this template. So I'm going to do that right now. So this is a list of fictitious transactions that I had made ChatGPT come up with. Now, something I want to emphasize is that this should be a pretty straightforward process. It's just a copy and paste from the exported CSV or Excel sheet onto this template. Definitely don't want you to be spending a lot of time inputting this information manually. It should just be a super easy copy and paste. But if you only have access to a PDF, then you can simply upload that onto ChatGPT and ask you to put it in Excel format. And the format that we need is the following: account type, account number, date, details, and amount. The reason we want account type is sometimes you will have different accounts. You might have a checking account, you might have a savings account, you might have 3 different credit cards. So we just want everything in one section here, but we want to be able to differentiate where that transaction is coming from. So that's what the account type is. The account number is also helping us identify which checking account, which credit card it is. Another column that we have here is date. There's another column for details. And the last column here is for the amount. And you'll see that when it comes to amount, there's positive numbers like $6,000 and there's negative numbers like $2,100. Positive amounts are income items and negative amounts are are expense items. It's very important to make sure that the signs go in that direction in order for this template to work. Now, if you're in a situation where you don't have the signs going the way that you want it, then what you can do is once you copy and paste the data, you could clean it up a little bit. So for example, let's say that all of these items are income items, but they're negative. All you have to do is reformat it so that they're positive, and then you just copy and paste the values only, and then you could use these amounts on the template here. So you could format it that way, and you can see that the formatting breaks a little bit here. If you want to keep the formatting consistent, all you have to do is copy the format that you want, and you just paste special format only. And you can see that the formatting here is now consistent. In order to make sure the formatting doesn't break, when you transfer this onto here and you paste it, make sure that you paste it values only, because let's say that the formatting here is weird. It's different colors, it's small. So if you copy and paste this onto here, let's just say that you do a normal paste, then the formatting breaks. However, if you just do paste special values only, then the formatting stays the same with the rest of the sheet, and all you get is the number. But let's undo that since that's not what we wanted to do. So that's how to get the format to what we want. This is the ideal end result where it's in this particular format with the income items being positive and the expense items being negative. Now, once we have everything in one area like this, we have downloaded all our transactions from all our checking, saving, different credit cards, and we have copied and pasted in this tab here. Now, the next step is to go about allocating each expense. And you have a couple of options. So you'll see that under allocation, you have a long list to choose from. All of this is coming from your master budget. So if you add to this, let's say you have side hustle income, then it automatically gets updated over here as side hustle income. If you delete this, then this also gets deleted. So it's no longer here. So you could always add more throughout the year if you want to have different types of categorization. I'm going to delete this work in progress sheet since we don't need it anymore. So let's start with the first one, which is payroll. Let's say that this is your salary. You could simply type it in like that, or you could choose from the long list and you could scroll and choose the one that is right, or you could even copy and paste it. So let's say this is also salary, then you could just simply go paste like this. But because this is not salary, let's choose from the list. This is going to be mortgage payment. Westland insurance, this is going to be home insurance. This might take a while. If you know what your categories are from here, all you have to do is type home insurance and just press enter. Property tax, that's straightforward. BC Hydro, that's hydro. Salon is hair care. Yes. ICBC, I'm assuming that is car insurance. So you could just type and find it. F45 online. I'm going to assume that is fitness classes. TFSA emergency fund. So let's say that you move some money to your TFSA account that is meant for your emergency fund. So we can say emergency fund. Let's say this TFSA is in a completely different account that is unrelated to your bank. For example, let's say that you use Questrade or Wealthsimple. In that case, you don't need to download the transactions from Wealthsimple or Questrade. On here, we'll know that if you have transferred that fund to Questrade, that you've allocated that fund to your emergency fund, and that fund is untouchable and you don't have easy access to it because it's in a completely separate account, which is something that you want so that you don't constantly move money back and forth if it's in your savings account, for example. The next one here is Strata West Coast, so that would be Strata. Kia financing, let's say that's your car financing. RRSP, let's say you've allocated it to your retirement fund. Your PayPal freelance, let's say that you've managed to get some freelance work income. TFSA, and that you've allocated some money towards your travel fund. And payment. So payment visa, this is money that you've withdrawn from your checking to pay off your visa statement or your credit card statement. This is the case where you would use transfers because it's not really an expense, it's simply money in and out, but it's not really an expense itself since we've allocated the individual expenses already. So that's when we use transfers. Now the other side of this transfer would be, let's jump ahead here. You can see that there was payment made or payment received to pay off the Visa card. In that case, this is also a transfer. So it's just simply an in and out. So it nets out, but sometimes you just want to include this as part of your transaction for completeness. Now let's just complete the rest of this supplements. sequestrate dividends. So let's say that's investment income. Let's say that's household supplies. So I'll go ahead and just quickly complete the rest of this. So I went ahead and completed this. Now that everything has been categorized, and this will go a lot faster once you're used to the different categories and once you are familiar with this, the next step is to look at your actual expenses and to compare it with your budget. So you can see here for income that you actually earned slightly higher than what you've budgeted, which is great. So you earned $6,863 versus the $6,500. When it comes to future me, you were able to allocate 1,400 instead of 1,450. So you under contributed to your funds, the main being the travel fund. Instead of 500, you put in 450. For housing, you can see that there's a difference of 425, and you can see right away there's a special levy here that you didn't anticipate, which resulted in the over budget. For transportation, you were pretty much on budget, since a lot of these costs can be pretty consistent unless you have a one-time big repair. But in this budget is also designed to be flexible in that you might have allocated $100 for maintenance and repairs, but you don't have any. Instead, you had different expenses related to public transportation. That's completely fine as long as you are within the allocated budget, which we were. The next section here is household items, and we can see that we were over budget by a little bit. That has to do with the groceries and the household supplies. We could also see for personal care, we were under budget. In this case, this under budget compensates for the household items being over budget. So there is a lot of flexibility here. You do not need to try to fit within each budget perfectly. And then the last section here is for luxuries, and you can see that even this one is under budget as well. So these under budget items sort of make up with the other sections that are over budget. If we look at the summary here, you can see that there are total income. Income was a little bit more than we anticipated, which is great. The expenses were also higher than what we have anticipated as well. And for total savings, it's basically the difference between the total income and the total expenses. And because the higher income essentially nets out being over the budget for expenses, the difference is very small. And because of that, a lot of the savings was allocated to future me. And the 1,400, you can see the breakdown over here where the actual funds were allocated compared to the budget. So very close, which is great. Now, an important way to conclude this tab is to reflect on why you were over budget. This month was pretty good because you're pretty much on point with the budget. But if there are months where there were unexpected one-time costs, one thing that I can remember is the special levy, which was unanticipated. So you could simply try to find special levy and bring that in. But over budget, that was anticipated. You could say that was related to repairs of pipes or something like that. So that was the main reason for the over budget. So one thing I want to add is that there is also a section for notes, and this is for you to just go in and put in additional details if required. And one instance why you might need this is for Amazon. You might have a credit card statement that has multiple Amazon purchases. Unfortunately, you're not able to see what they are related to. So something I like to do is go back to my order history and check each transaction. There was actually an instance where I was going through my list of Amazon purchases and I realized I didn't get a refund for an item that was canceled. And so I went back and called Amazon to get that refund, which was over a month due. And so that's one of the benefits of doing this exercise in order to understand what your spending habits are and that there are no charges that were incorrect, which brings awareness to where your money is going. So going back to this Amazon example, let's say that you go to your list and this was related to plates that you need for the house. Then you would say plates and you could just allocate that as household items. And that's it. So that's how you use a note section. And I always like to put in more details than less details because let's say in a few months from now, you need to go back and look at your transactions. You will have no idea what they were related to. The note section definitely helps when I need to go back and review my transactions again. Once you have completed the tab, we could go back and look at the rest. So for income, you can see that the actual earnings get automatically updated. This is another exercise that you can do where you could simply update this for the year. Let's say that you anticipate $900, but your goal is to grow it by $50 each month. So you could have an income goal like this and compare it to what your actuals are. Also your investment income, let's say your goal is to also grow that by $50. So you could just fill this out and see how you compare to your actual earnings. When it comes to investments, this is a place where you could to get organized about your different investment accounts. Based on our example, let's say that you have a TFSA for your emergency fund, you have an RSP for your retirement fund, and you have a TFSA for your travel fund. And you can say that so far you have 7,000, 32,000, and 2,000. And as you put in amounts each month, you can update it for how much you have contributed. So you can say for the emergency, you put in $250. For your retirement fund, you can say you put towards the $700. And then for the travel fund, you can say you put towards the $450 for the month of January. So while that's your cost base, the second section here is the market value. Obviously, your investments are going to fluctuate from month to month depending on how the market is doing. So in that case, for short-term uses like your emergency fund and your travel fund, you want to put it in a more safe investment. It can be a high interest savings account or a GIC. For your retirement fund, it might fluctuate a little bit more just because you're investing long-term, and so you're taking on a little bit more risk, so there might be a little bit more fluctuation. Let's say that when I checked during the month of January, let's say it was January 29th, 2025, this is a place you could put the date just to get a snapshot. Let's say your emergency fund was pretty close. It's 7,300. You actually made some money because of safe investments you made and there's interest that's accumulated. Let's say for your travel fund, it was 2,500. And then for your retirement fund, because you took on a little bit of risk, let's say that it went down to $32,450. So you can see that these are the actual market value. And down here, you could see a comparison of how much profit you made or what loss position you're in. So this gives you a snapshot of how your investments are doing. Obviously, you don't want to be checking your investments every single day, but if you do this once a month, it just gives you an idea on how your investments are doing and have a pulse on where the market is going, but you're not obsessive in checking it every single day. So that's how you use the investments tab. As I mentioned, the debt summary is something that we won't be covering, but I have a whole video dedicated to it, which I will be linking. So make sure to check that out. Now we're going to be finishing off with the monthly overview and the annual overview. You can see that the numbers are automatically being pulled from the January tab, and it's giving you a summary on a monthly basis, and this will be completed as you complete each of the tabs here. And you can see that for the month of January, the savings were $1,423, which agrees with the actual savings of $1,423 over here. And of the total savings, you can see that $1,400 were allocated to the different buckets that we've intentionally set for our future me over here. And if you were to calculate what the total percentage of savings are, that's about 21%. If you take monthly savings of $1,423 over $6,863, then you get 21%. The next section here is the bank account balance, and you can see that it's white because it's meant to be manually updated. And I like to do this once a month while I do my budgeting. So let's say that I was checking my bank balance on March 29th, 2025. And when I check it, let's say I had $2,000 and then I had savings of $1,000 just sitting there. That just keeps a tab on how much my cash is. You could also see here that there is a snapshot of what your investment accounts have, and this is being automatically pulled from the investment tab over here. And then the last section is your real estate. So obviously you're not going to have monthly data for the fair market value. I just like to look at my property tax assessment to get an idea. Let's say that your fair market value is $600,000, and for the mortgage, let's say you still need to pay off $400,000. And this amount, let's say, stays the same for the entire year. And for this amount, you can check how much your mortgage is on your bank statement. You can see as you pay off bits of the principal every single month that your mortgage value also decreases over time. So when you log into your bank account, you can also check what your mortgage amount is to keep tabs on how much progress you're making on a month-to-month basis. And something to emphasize here is the mortgage value needs to be negative. There's also a sign here that says negative value because the mortgage is debt that you still need to pay off. It's not equity. So you'll see that your equity in the real estate is $200,000. And if you add up your real estate, you add up your investments, and you add up your cash value, then your total net worth is $245,250, which is great. And in order to see an annual overview, you could go to this tab. You could see that the graphs are starting to populate. And as you fill out each tab here, this will also update for each month. So this is the monthly savings dollar value, monthly savings percentage. And then you could also see a breakdown of your net worth where there is real estate investment
investments in cash. So you can see right away that a big portion of it is related to your real estate. And then you can see that there's a little bit related to investments and not much in cash. This is pre-populated in gray right now because we already put in $600,000 here. So if we just delete that, you can see that there's nothing there. And you could also review your big picture money goals to see if you are on track and to remotivate yourself why you are doing this and what you're saving up for. So that is my updated template in a nutshell. You could totally see there has been a lot of changes that were made compared to the 2024 template. And if you want access to this template, feel free to check out the description box down below and I will have a link to purchase this particular template. And if you're not quite ready for this robust template, then I also have a free budgeting template that you could download, absolutely free. It's a lot more simplified, but if you're just getting started, then that might be a perfect place for you to begin. So make sure to check out the description box down below for all those resources.
And that's a wrap on how I personally manage my money. For me, staying on top of my finances give me a real sense of control and peace of mind. But if you're just getting started and feeling a bit overwhelmed, know that it doesn't have to feel like a chore. One tip I have is to make the process feel more enjoyable. You can light a candle, put on your favorite playlist, or even pair your budgeting session with a glass of wine or a cozy latte. Whatever gets you in the zone. Because building good money habits should feel empowering, not exhausting. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!